Bo Nickal finally getting a shot in the rankings before GTA 6. It's real, it's fucking confirmed, and it's going down for UFC. I bet half of y'all don't even know what the hell it is, but Des Moines, Iowa, alright? That's where UFC's going back, and they're kind of bringing a pretty good card, okay? We got Sandhagen, Nerdhagen taking on Figueiredo, a matchup that a lot of people are shitting on, but I actually think it's a pretty good barn burner. We'll get to that eventually. And then we got Bo Nickal, like I said, taking on Ranier de Ritter here, in an actually pretty good matchup, and it's a real test for Bo. We're going to get into that as well. I know that also Cheeto Vera versus Mario Batista has been heavily rumored to go down for this card as well. I don't know why they didn't just come out and put it with the rest of them, because we also have the return of Jeremy Stephens. You want to talk about some weird shit that's going down before GTA 6? We got fucking Jeremy Stephens. Bro, when I was scrolling through, I was like, all right, nice. Like, this is a good card. I can kind of come back, or I go to my first fucking UFC event for. Because really, man, okay, I want to say this real quick about Iowa. No offense to y'all, okay? But I've visited. I've been. It's a lot of just fucking cornfields. And I heard this is like the first ever time they're doing an event in Des Moines. I'm fucking happy for y'all. I really am. But damn, they're stacking this card, and Uncle Dana's really trying to hit up every damn state this year. And I love to see it, okay? But y'all really can't just come back to Chicago yet? You can't just come back to Chicago, all right? Because now my ass is going to have to drive the 4 or 5 hours down to go watch some fights. And you know what? I'm going to do it anyways, okay? Because Uncle Dana knows what the fuck he's doing, god damn it. So I know you're all here just to hear me talk about the big bad Jeremy Stephens, all right? But no, let's talk about this Bo Nickal matchup, okay? Because I'm really itching to kind of talk about it, about it a bit here, because I'm not gonna lie, UFC, Hunter, Uncle Dana, whatever the fuck, man, like, this is a good matchup right here. It's good matchmaking. It makes sense for Bo more so than RDR. I would have liked to see RDR kind of step up in the rankings and kind of face someone in between like that top 10 and 15, you know? But honestly, man, like, if you're coming in 2-0 in the UFC already and you're beating GM3, the big bad GM3, people forget, man, but GM3, bro, all right? If you're subbing GM3, that's a good fucking debut, all right? I know that on the feed he looked like that goofy goober sloppy man style, but it is what it is, brother. You know, we'll find out October 26th, you know? We'll find out in that Apex, you know, sloppy man style. But then I feel like submitting Kevin Holland around the only person, I mean, it is hard to, beating Kevin Holland is one thing, but it really is hard to finish him, let alone sub him in the first round. The only other person that's done that is fucking Khamzat Chimaev. I'm not saying that RDR is a Chimaev, but at the end of the day, I feel like it's a solid 2-0 UFC run, and I would have wanted to see him face, I don't know, man, like, there's guys in the rankings that are there for him. Paulo Costa, something, bro, alright? I would have just liked to see RDR, maybe even a Roman Kopylov, like, just something kind of in the rankings. I mean, RDR's in the rankings now, at least, like, that's something, alright? We're getting somewhere, but at the end of the day, man, former one champion, he's like 34, 35 something years old, I believe. And like, let's just not, this isn't one of those games like a Peyton Talbot or some kind of prospect where you can kind of play the right steps to kind of build somebody up, or even like the rushed route with the Umar Nurmagomedov or a Sean O'Malley or some shit like that. Like, it doesn't even need to be that, but like, this dude doesn't really need to go through like all of the phases. You know, he already has a lot of credibility. He has a good record. Just the fact that like his achievements speak for themselves. I'm not saying that one is on the level of the UFC, but at the end of the day, man, like, it says a lot. And he already has 2 good wins, both by finishes. I think that his grappling is going to be really fucking dangerous for a lot of guys in the middleweight division. You know, I'm not saying he's like a Khamzat Chimaev, like, you know, oh, I come in to kill everybody, but now I am humble father and I sell baked goods to needy children. But at the end of the day, RDR, I think, still can go far enough. I'm not saying that I could see like Duplessis versus RDR in some backwards ass Doctor Strange timeline, but it could happen because I do think that RDR is skilled enough to do it. So I think that the UFC's got some balls putting him against Bo. I feel like this is a dangerous matchup for Bo. I understand that it's not somebody who's going to be really much of a threat at all for him on the feet, to be honest. Like, I think that the size discrepancy and the size advantage is going to be there for RDR. He's a big fucking middleweight. Bo's a little bit kind of like that stocky wrestler, you know, big bad USA. I gotta stop saying big bad in front of everything for this fucking video. I don't know why I keep doing that, but the big bad USA wrestler built Bo Nickal, man. Like, I don't know. I feel like RDR is just so fucking lengthy compared to him. Maybe I'm underestimating the size of Bo, but I don't know. So the reach, well, I should probably make sure the fucking reach is right, but I don't know why that just took me a minute, y'all, to find the reach of RDR. But okay, he's only got a couple inches over Bo in that regard. It's literally like 78 to 76, but still, like, the length of RDR is going to be a factor here. Then again, you could argue that might make it a little bit easier for Bo Nickal to kind of get some takedown entries here. But at the end of the day, man, it's going to be so fucking interesting to see, like, size advantage or whatever the fuck. Like, let's talk about skills alone, right? RDR, you know, I feel like his grappling is going to be a real test for Bo. Like, I know Paul Craig dangerous as it fucking gets, all right? I'm getting chills down my motherfucking spine just thinking about Paul Craig, all right? But at the end of the day, it was a fucking dud of a decision, all right? It was a boring little back and forth. And if Paul Craig is giving you kind of that much, I don't even want to say adversity because it really even wasn't adversity, but if he's making it that close with the numbers and close with the power punches, and again, that's Paul Craig with the motherfucking striking, you know? And again, Bo didn't even bother to shoot a takedown there, and it wasn't even like, I thought it was kind of like, you know what, like it was a boring decision, but at least Bo like was trying to prove a point that like he can strike, all right? Weird fucking strategy, but at the end of the day, whatever, fine. But then I found out that the motherfucker's coming out on interviews and he's saying, nah, man, like I just don't, we want to be smart. We want to play this smart. Like we don't want to get to the ground with a guy like Paul Craig. He's very dangerous down there. Like fuck that, bro. Like listen, it's like when you see these rising prospects, you want to see them get the fuck after it, okay? Like especially we're in this stage where this is where they're supposed to be racking up a lot of finishes, but supposed to be making light work of a guy like Paul Craig, who Paul Craig is fucking good, but at the end of the day, like it shouldn't have been that much of a problem for Bo. And I've been one of these people that tries to preach like, listen, we shouldn't really rush him. Like I get there's a fuck ton of pressure on the dude. Like every post-fight promo he's had the past couple of fights, it seems like he's fucking like on his first day of class, you know what I'm saying? He's like, I'm sorry guys, I'm sorry, like I don't know, man, like just the UFC kind of recognizes for some fucking reason, I don't really see like the big deal about kind of Bo Nickal, but they're really trying to push hard for the motherfucker. Like listen, I think the guy is good, really good wrestling credentials, but like there's no aura there. He doesn't have the craziest fighting style, the craziest finishes, and his wrestling's really good, but at the end of the day, like going back to the Paul Craig thing, going back and forth on the feet, like it just kind of turned me off a bit from all that. You know what I'm saying? You want to invest in a prospect who's gaining a lot of hype and wants, like a Hamza Chimaev would not sit and strike and maintain the distance and avoid getting in the pocket and fucking, you know, land on a big right hook. I think that's what Bo was fucking spamming over and over against Craig, but at the end of the day, Hamza would have gone in there, picked him up and took him down within the first 10 seconds, and within like a fucking round, you know, I'm trying to predict how the fight would go because Paul Craig is pretty solid on the ground, but I'm like, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't even have to be Chimaev. Like a prospect usually would kind of just go in there and try and make a statement, but for Bo, it just seemed like he was trying to just, you know, get a really safe win. And it's like, dude, I'm pretty sure he was on like the main card opener or like the feature fight for 309, and it's just like, Christ. I don't really understand why the UFC puts so much hype and effort into him, but I will say this, man, it's nice to have him off of a main card of a fucking pay-per-view. No more UFC 300 or the John Jones featured fight or whatever the fuck. Like, he's the co-main for a fight night, or maybe the feature fight of a fight night. Again, depends if Chito Vera versus fucking what's his name, Mario bitch-ass Batista ends up getting really booked for this card, but let's just say it does, man. Like, that is perfect placement for Bo, okay? At the end of the day, for as far as the UFC wants him to go, and for as good as his wrestling is, like, he's a 7-0 record, man. It's not like an Alex Pereira 7-0, okay? It's just a raw 7-0, man, where he's really trying to build up experience and gain a lot of fucking knowledge, and so that he can develop his skills on the feet, he can develop better cardio, he can develop better finishing ability, or fight IQ. So I get that the motherfucker doesn't want to be rushed here and wants to take his time, but at the end of the day, I feel like this is perfect place for him, and this is where it should be. Like, no more of these fucking pay-per-view main cards until he's fucking racking up some double-digit record wins, or he's really making a statement, or something like that. Like, listen, there's potential here for sure. I get that the guy is kind of boring. It's like, dude, this guy is the personality of a wooden fucking pickaxe, okay? That is Bo Nickal, so there's not much to be fucking desired on the mic, at least not yet. The striking really isn't much there. He had a sick fucking knockout over the jabroni Val Woodburn. Was that his name? Dude, that kind of just came to me. If that's his actual name, then holy fuck, man. Hey, yeah, all the smoke MMA, bro. We're really defeating the casual takes over here, but the knockout over Val Woodburn was fucking sick. But at the end of the day, man, like if you're doing a pitter-patter fest and you're just kind of relying on a nice hook to fucking get you through to Paul Craig, and you're not really imposing your will or not really kind of dictating where the fight goes, and you're kind of, I don't know, man. I don't know. I get that it was a big test for Bo, but at the end of the day, man, would have liked to kind of see more out of that performance. But I understand that he's more than that. I want to talk about RDR striking real quick too, since we are kind of comparing. You know, we're talking a little bit about Bo striking against Nickal being a bit underwhelming. Let's talk about underwhelming striking. Okay, we got RDR, man. That's like this guy fucking blindfolds himself and bites a little bit extra hard on the mouthpiece, and just whatever the fuck happens, he's swinging and banging. Okay, it's like somebody threw a banana peel under him and he's just fucking going crazy with it. And the thing is, like, he does have solid pop behind his shots. Like, the dude can crack, but I don't think he relies on it too much. Again, we have a bit more to see out of him. When it came to the Kevin Holland fight, like, I know that in one, he was racking up some fair share of knockouts, but at least from what we've seen in the UFC, like, GM3 was giving him a lot of adversity on the feet. That's one thing. And against Kevin Holland, we really didn't see anything from the striking coming from RDR. So at the end of the day, I feel like he's been very reliant on the dominant grappling. But how is that going to do fire meets fire with Bo Nickal here? I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to be like a Merab Umar situation-esque where, I mean, whoever's grappling, it's just going to go head-to-head. It's not going to be like one of those fights that just completely plays out on the feet. I feel like whoever's grappling is superior. I feel like is just going to win this fight. Okay, Merab was able to efficiently stuff a lot of Umar's takedowns and shut down a lot of his momentum and hold his own enough on the feet to where he fucking won that decision. I feel like that's kind of the blueprint for each of these guys going into this fight. Like, Bo is going to want to be able to maintain his own on the feet, land the bigger shots, hold his own on the feet and just kind of like get after it a bit, like try and rock RDR, try and get the fuck up there. It's interesting to argue who would even have the power advantage here, if it is RDR, if it is going to be Bo. No fucking idea. I don't know, because Bo, what we've seen out of his striking, man, like nothing too crazy. And again, I'm trying to just move on past the Paul Craig performance, but it's difficult because the second highest caliber opponent he's faced is Cody Brundage. So we're dealing with a lot of cans, a lot of jobbers. Again, that's why I'm praising the UFC and Bo for making this matchup in the first place. I'm glad that Bo's getting a real dangerous test here. And like, Bo could really lose this one. Like, I don't know if I've made it clear, if I've even said my pick, like, but I'm going to be going with RDR, man. Like, I feel like I'm making it kind of clear by the energy I'm putting out. Like, I'm trying to put respect on Bo, but at the same time, it's like, dude, this is not a situation where I see Bo winning. Like, this is a shutdown for me. Like, can Bo beat a guy like Apollo Costa or maybe even like a Roman Dolidze? Like, yeah, I think so. But I don't know, man. I think RDR is just going to be too much for him. Like, I think that he's going to get the better of the sloppy striking exchanges. I don't know who the fuck has more power here. Argue with the wall. But at the end of the day, when it comes to just the pure grappling, I like what I've seen more out of RDR, man. Whether from one or from the UFC, the little shit we've seen. Because Bo, man, I know there's this whole kind of debate going on, this whole kind of back and forth. I don't know. Guru kind of set the wave, man, where he's kind of pointing out that USA Wrestling really just, it's not as efficient as it was, or doesn't have the aura it used to. It's not as fucking medicine. Like, this guy's a fucking USA wrestler. Like, this guy's bleeding red, white, and blue. You should be motherfucking afraid when that singlet comes out. But at the end of the day, it's been very ineffective as of late, and I think this might be a similar situation where I think that RDR, the big flying Dutchman, fucking, what was it, Davy Jones Lager type wrestling, I think is going to be better than Bo's, hard-grained American Pie type wrestling. But at the end of the day, we'll see. Bo can go out there and shove me up. It's not like he's probably going to be the favorite for this fight. Like, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Bo does win, but I just think that RDR's experience, I just think he's going to have better cardio here, better fight IQ. I think it's his time, okay? I think he's going to get the better of the striking exchanges, going to have better grappling. Don't get me wrong. I mean, for all I know, Bo can go out there and fucking knock him out, or Bo could do amazing on the feet, or Bo can out wrestle him. Who the fuck knows? But from what I do know about Bo Nickal and what I do know about RDR, I feel safe-ish making a pick where I think RDR is going to take this one via, I can't see him finishing Bo, who the fuck knows, so I think it's going to be a 29-28 decision here, all right? Maybe the Iowa judges are feeling it a little bit. Uncle Dana paid him a little something to get Bo the win here, but honestly, man, the fact that they're making this matchup in the first place, they easily could just give him Bo another can. I mean, on paper, he really should fucking get a step up, so I'm glad they're doing it, but I think that the UFC might be prepared, like, okay, Bo, he might win some and he might lose some. I don't think this is going to be a situation where Bo loses, it's all over, and he loses all over, and the kid's fucked. Like, I don't think that's the case, man. Like, there's losses in MMA, and I think that when you have such a raw record like a 7-0, it's only, especially when he's getting fast-tracked a little bit, like he, kind of just went straight from wrestling, learned a few years of striking, brother, but that's a little bit it. Like, he's just mostly been relying on the wrestling to kind of get through and just developing everything else in the meantime, because he's kind of playing catch-up, you know what I mean? Because he just wasn't learning that kind of shit for most of his life, very reliant on the wrestling, and we kind of see it with the style. Unless you're Paul fucking... Okay, I shouldn't even start this fucking thing, but at the end of the day, man, I can see Bo losing this one, But don't get me wrong, I can see RDR losing as well. I'm very curious what the odds makers are going to put these betting odds at, because, I mean, I don't know. Like, again, I think RDR is going to win, but I know they're going to make Bo a favorite, so we'll fucking see. Who knows? Maybe it'll be a pick'em. Maybe it should be a pick'em. I don't know, but yeah, I like this fight, and I think I'm going to be going with RDR for this one. So moving on up next now to the main event, man, and I'm going to be honest, I like this main event, y'all, okay? We got Sandhagen, my boy Sandhagen, okay? My favorite bantamweight, okay? Say whatever the fuck you want, all right? I'm a Corey Sandhagen fan, and I'll stand by that, bro. All right? I'm not saying that this guy's the best striker in the bantamweight division. I'm not saying that this guy's going to go out there and KO Figgy and fucking within 3 rounds. I'm not saying any of that. but I will stand my base in saying that I'm a fan of Corey Sandhagen, and I'm rooting for him to win. And I don't even think I said Figueiredo's name yet. I'm so sorry. I apologize. But taking on Davis and Figueiredo, man, who we're talking about what are the odds going to be for the last fight. What the fuck are they going to be for this one? I'm very curious who's going to be the official favorite for this one, because I don't know, man. This is a very hard fight to predict. Again, I'm going to be going with Sandhagen, but I don't even think that's with me being biased. Let's just talk about this fight stylistically. I think it's a barn burner. I think we're going to see a decision here. I think that's not even a situation where it's both these guys are fucking boring. Both these guys are relatively entertaining motherfucking fighters, man. They get after it, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, I think that both their chins are too good, and I think that this is going to be a very high-level matchup to where both these guys are kind of just figuring each other out for the first couple rounds, and then they kind of get the fuck after it going into those championship rounds. And I think it's going to be a big battle on the feet, and I think it's going to be very kind of well-paced. That's why I don't really see a finish here. I would love to see some crazy shit coming from Sandhagen, and obviously Figueiredo hits fucking hard, especially for bantamweight standards, so I could see him cracking Sandhagen. But either way, even if one of these guys gets a knockdown, again, I think the experience and just the level of this fight and both their chins being so good, I do feel like we're going to see a decision here, even if Figgy wins or Sandhagen wins, whatever the fuck. But yeah, stylistically, man, I know a lot of people wanted the Sean O'Malley fight versus Sandhagen, and don't get me wrong, I thought that was the fight to make. It made a lot of sense. I really, really don't like that this implies because I know the UFC is not going to do Jan versus O'Malley too, especially not for 5 rounds. So I hate that Sandhagen versus Figgy pretty much confirms-ish, plus with what Dana was saying, that we're going to get Marab versus Sugar. Really don't like that rematch. I've ranted about that enough on the channel, and I'm sure I'm going to have a lot more to rant about it, but let's look at the good. We have Sandhagen versus Figgy, okay? I'm not going to lie. Even regardless, when you just remove Sean O'Malley from the equation, this is a good fight, and I feel like if it wasn't going to be Sean, Figgy is a guy that's the second fight that makes the most sense in my opinion. You could have done Aldo or someone like that, but at the end of the day, I feel like this was the right fight to make if it wasn't going to be Sean O'Malley, okay? Both these guys, okay. Oh, see, I'm wrestling now from Corey Sandhagen, man. That's the energy here, because it's going to be interesting to see if Corey gets after it with the offensive wrestling. We've seen it against Rob Font. We saw it against Shado. We saw it against Umar, where just big improvements coming from the grappling for Corey Sandhagen. He's becoming more and more well-rounded by the day. I feel like before he was kind of just this very dynamic, quick, explosive striker who kind of just found all the right shots, was very good at maintaining the distance, had good cardio, very long, rangy. Corey Sandhagen would piece motherfuckers up. He didn't have a lot of power, but the fact that he was so good with the timing and precision, he was so dynamic with it, man, it was just enough to where he was flatlining people at one point. We haven't seen it as of late. He went on a good win streak, but to my recollection, it was all decisions, and then he lost to Umar, which kind of killed the hype, and now he's coming back against Figgy, and it's is he going to incorporate the offensive wrestling, or is he just going to let his striking speak for itself and let it play out on the feet? Because at the end of the day, I feel like his striking was ironically the thing that held him back the most going against Umar. That was what people were saying, oh, okay, Umar might be able to get him down a couple of times, but I don't know why I sound like Joe Swanson. I'm like, hey, Peter. But I'm saying, I think Sandhagen, you would have thought that the striking would have been just the thing that got him through with that fight. But at the end of the day, Umar was not only outstriking him, but landing the better shots, and Corey was kind of surprising everyone with how good his grappling looked. Especially, defensively, man, Umar was able to get him down a couple times, but Corey's defense was so good, he would just get right the fuck back up within a minute. So I know in the 5th round, Sandhagen started dying out and shit like that, but for the first 4 rounds of that fight, I should just call it the most of the fight, okay? Because even in the 5th round, Sandhagen looked all right. The grappling was so there for him, but the striking, he was just so hesitant, or looked like it just wasn't kind of the same energy as before. He was kind of very timid to hold back. Who knows, maybe it was the takedown threat, maybe it was Umar's style. Who the fuck knows? Maybe Corey was just so dialed in on the training plan for a year. He prepped for Umar for a year, so he was very heavy on training for the wrestling. Who knows? We just saw that against Pereira versus Ankalaev. Pereira is a guy who you would have thought on paper, oh, he's gonna go out there and fuck him up on the feet, but at the end of the day, Ankalaev was the one that was putting on all the pressure on the feet. If anything, he landed the bigger shots, and Pereira looked great defensively in the grappling, but at the end of the day, Pereira and Sandhagen, they fucking lost. So for as good as defending these takedowns are, and for as good as it is to improve the defensive grappling, it's such a necessary part, especially when you're going against guys like Umar or Ankalaev, but it's just it's a double-edged sword, because at the end of the day, it seems like they kind of forgot what got them to the dance, and forgot to really put the gas on the fucking pedal, or put the pedal on the gas. I do this every fucking time. Put the foot on the gas pedal, right, and get the fuck after it on the feet, because if Sandhagen can do that, man, I think he beats a lot of guys in the division, and Figueiredo included. Now, let's talk a little bit about Figgy, alright, man, because Figgy can, again, totally fucking win this fight. A lot of people are are going to pick Figgy to win, and I think that's fair as fuck. That's a good pick, all right? Listen, I think that Figgy, it's hard to say who's even the more well-rounded fighter now, because like I'm fucking saying, like Sandhagen really does know how to get after the wrestling. I mean, offensively, we saw it against Cheeto and Fon, and defensively, we've seen it a lot, especially against Umar as well. So like, he's becoming a lot more well-rounded, but Figgy, I feel like, has been a bit more well-rounded, kind of to begin with. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't get me wrong, Figgy kind of has this more clear path to victory than others, and there are bigger weaknesses in his game than others, but at the end of the day, I think relatively, man, like his striking, his wrestling, his cardio, fight IQ, like everything is kind of so there. And again, like he kind of is going to want to just, I feel like I'm going to see this fight play out on the feet, okay? I feel like Figueiredo and Sandhagen are too comfortable there, and they have points to prove to where I think they're going to get the fuck after it. I could see Figgy shooting for some takedowns, and I could see Sandhagen shooting for some takedowns. If you asked anybody that a few years ago, they'd call you fucking crazy, but at the end of the day, this is the reality we're in. Figgy, again, first got to crack Cheeto Vera, really, and Vera's taking so much fucking damage, so I feel like that speaks volumes to how powerful Figueiredo is at bantamweight. And just in general, man, like we've seen him fucking rock some guys, so, and he looked great against Fon Garbrandt, so it's going to be interesting to see how he bounces back from the Jan loss, because he definitely had his moments against Jan, you know, but I feel like at the same time, Jan, just that was his fight, okay? I don't remember what the scorecards were off the top of my head, but it was very Jan winning the fight as, like, just kind of from start to finish. But Figueiredo definitely had some good moments, you know, he definitely fucking cracked Jan a couple times, definitely just looked good in general, but at the end of the day, it was one of those fights where Jan kind of just clearly had that, and Figueiredo gave him a fair share of problems and made it competitive. But at the end of the day, like, it just, Figueiredo just kind of died out in there. You know what I'm saying? And like, he looked great, but it just wasn't on the level of Piotr Jan. And again, both these guys fucking lost to Jan, so I guess they kind of have that in common there. Both by kind of like similar-ish decisions, man. If you look at kind of the scoring-wise, or just like how the fight played out a little bit. I don't know. Maybe I'm tripping about that part because I'm just fucking yapping here. But at the end of the day, they got that in common. Sandhagen and Figueiredo, man. Now the question is, going back to Figueiredo's striking and his power, is his power going to be enough to crack Sandhagen? Maybe, but I don't think a knockout's going to be done here for Figueiredo. I mean, if anyone's going to actually get the finish, maybe I could see it being, I don't know. It kind of goes either way. Like, I could see Figgy finishing him in some regard on the feet or on the ground. I could see Sandhagen maybe getting a knockout here. God forbid. Sandhagen via submission is going to be like a plus 3,000. Hell fucking no. But at the end of the day, man, I feel like this fight's going to play out with, you know, both these guys kind of figuring each other out in the first round, you know, and then from the second and on, I think that we're going to get a fucking war. I think that Sandhagen is really going to have a point to prove and really is going to want to go back to being, you know, I don't want to say more entertaining because it's not like he was ever fucking boring to begin with besides like the Font fight, but I think that Sandhagen's going to want to make a statement, really look for a finish, really look to piece him up on the feet, really just look to control the cage, dictate where the fight goes, just show off every tool in the fucking arsenal. I think that Sandhagen can do that, but on the same time, man, I think Figueiredo's fucking dangerous. I think he can crack Sandhagen, man. He's going to want to, you know, I think it's going to play out similarly strategy-wise for both guys. Like, they could mix in the takedowns, but at the end of the day, I think this is going to be a battle of who's striking is fucking better, who can land the better shots, who can land the bigger power shots here. Like, I think Figueiredo is going to fucking bring it, you know. Figgy's a very underratedly exciting fighter, and I think that Sandhagen might be a bit overratedly of an exciting fighter. And again, I'm a huge fan of him, but at the end of the day, I'm being real with it. Like, people talk about Sandhagen like he's the best striker that the UFC's ever seen, or people talk about like he's the most exciting bantamweight there is, and you can't miss a Sandhagen fight. I mean, dude, like, I think Sandhagen's a fantastic striker, definitely one of the best in the division, or arguably even one of the best in the UFC. But at the end of the day, man, I think that his skill set and just how entertaining he is a tad bit overrated. Like, people talk about this guy, like, people just talk about this guy, I don't know, it's a little bit out of proportion sometimes. So we have a bit of an overratedly entertaining fighter versus an underratedly entertaining fighter that is Figueiredo here. But don't get me wrong, both these guys can fucking bring it. We've seen it in the past. We've seen fun fights and fun finishes out of both these guys, and I think that this isn't going to be anything short. I think, you know, I've seen the Iowa card. It looks pretty solid so far, but I think there's going to be some finishes there, but I think this will be fight of the night. I think this is going to be one of those main events where it just kind of, you know, it just makes sense. Like, both these guys are going to fucking bring it, so who's going to be able to really kind of impose and dictate their style here, you know what I mean? So it's a great fight though, man. Honestly, I really don't have much to say about Stevens versus Jones. Like, very fucking random fight. Again, I was very fucking shocked to begin with that Stevens was just back. Like, I would have thought after bare knuckle, after looking so good against Alvarez, and don't get me wrong, I don't really watch too much bare knuckle, but I think that he was doing relatively just well in general and was racking up a couple of wins. So I think that, there was talks of him going with like GFL or PFL or like, doing more bare knuckle. Definitely did not expect him to come back to the UFC, okay? And I mean, when you look at Jeremy Stephens, man, beat the shit out of Gilbert Melendez, okay? And then he had a good win over Doohoo Choi, and then he beat Josh Emmett, okay? And you're like, damn, like Jeremy Stephens, man, this guy's kind of, this guy's pretty solid. And then, that was genuinely the last period of wins for Jeremy Stephens that were, they're just in general, I mean, in the UFC, man, because then after that, he lost to Aldo, he lost to Sabit, he had the couple fight fiasco, and then lost to Yair Rodriguez, and then he lost to, what's his name, Calvin Kattar, and then he lost his final fight in the UFC to Mateusz Gamrot. So 0-5 in his last 5 for the UFC, but I think that Jones, sorry, there's so many fucking Jones. I think he only won 1 fight in the UFC and then lost 2 or 3, so wasn't anything crazy there either, but technically this is a comeback for him as well. So we got the big bad Mason Jones making his motherfucking comeback. How are y'all not pinching your nails just even thinking about this shit, man, until they go all the way down to here, for fuck's sake. The matchup of all time. Alright, so both these guys are coming back. I mean, Jones has a point to prove, man. I don't know what the fuck he's been up to outside of the UFC in these last couple of years. I presume getting a couple of wins if they're giving him this matchup or they're bringing him back. I mean, fuck, I sound like a casual with this one. I'm not gonna lie, but at the end of the day, I don't know who the fuck wins. I don't know where Stephens is at. Like, we've seen in bare knuckle how some guys are just so fucking dangerous there and so elite, and then they come back to the UFC or they do boxing or whatever the fuck, and then they lose. And it's like bare knuckles kind of slowly, or just already is becoming like it's just own fucking sport, or maybe it always has been. Maybe I sound retarded with this. All right, let's cut to the fucking chase, bro. Okay, so Jeremy Stephens is back. He's taking on the big bad Jones here, and there's not much to say. I mean, and then again, I feel like Iowa is shaping up to be a really solid card. Again, Cheeto versus Batista's bitch ass. We got Montel Jackson on this card as well. Like, there's some pretty solid matchups. Really looking forward to it. Again, hopefully, knock on wood, that this gets to be the first UFC event I get to ever go to, man. I want them to come back to Chicago so bad. They're just not doing it as of yet. So at the end of the day, I might just pull the trigger, man. I mean, for fuck's sake, I need to go to this shit. So thank you guys so very much for making it this far in the video, man. All the smoke MMA here. Appreciate you guys a lot, man. Thanks so very much for watching, giving me y'all's time. Appreciate y'all a lot. If you guys can help me, please get to 1,000 subscribers. I'd really, really appreciate it. But regardless, just thanks so much for tuning in, making this far in the video. Let me know your opinions in the comments below. Let me know who you think's gonna win these matchups. Let me know what you think of said matchups. Love to hear your comments. We're just here to talk some MMA. So appreciate y'all a lot. I'll see you guys next time.